I met Tone in Zurich. He was the maverick on the panel. Everyone else was a true believer on the panel, and he was the only contrarian. And when I use terminology to describe the blockchain, I use words like transformational, visionary, extraordinary, and of course there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of hyperbole, and there's a lot of opportunity. So governments, several states have adopted blockchain legislation to encourage capital formation for innovation. There's also many governments outside the U.S., including Estonia, Switzerland, Singapore, and other governments, including governments that are contrary to Bitcoin but still support the blockchain technology. So we have a whole lot of different, thank you very much. So we have a lot of different competing forces, regulators and innovators. And I think the most important thing is if you're thinking of launching a security token, make sure you have a good securities lawyer. If you're thinking of launching a utility token, make sure you have a good securities lawyer. If you're thinking of launching an asset-backed token or a hybrid token, make sure you have a good securities lawyer. So my opinion is that this is not the second coming of the internet. This is an era of protocol innovation, and it's an era of capital formation, the likes of which we have not seen since the second industrial revolution. So this is part of the fourth industrial revolution that Klaus Schwab wrote about a year and a half ago in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, which was launched in Davos in January of 2016. There have been over 40 panels on the blockchain in Davos. Among those people you might call financial elites, CEOs and innovators and thought leaders and people who've written books about technology, you'll see that we're in the early stages. As other speakers have said, this is something where the rate of change is happening on a very accelerated basis in many different directions. Vitalik Buterin, 4 years ago, was sleeping on the couch of his ICO lawyer in Great Neck for 6 months. And now he's on paper, at least on digital paper, he's worth close to $3.4 billion in fiat currency because Ethereum is over $300. And he owns approximately 10% is my understanding. So he's now 23 years old. He's just came out with a new protocol and a new vision statement. So the digital statesmen of our era who are adopting this technology are doing it because they love technology. But I want to speak just for a few minutes about what do you need the blockchain for? Do you need it for a database? Do you need it to share like Google Docs, write on the same screen? Are the writers who don't know each other trusted? Could there be a trusted intermediary like a consensus blockchain? Do you need to have a trusted third party like an escrow agent? Do you want transactions to be public or private, or do you need a hybrid where there can be something like Wikipedia where there's curation and yet there's freedom to contribute? And there's a tension between that level of curation and freedom to contribute. So we have a very big opportunity for just about every creative business model innovation to go on the blockchain, and there will be a lot more protocol innovation. So I didn't put the hybrid between public and private blockchain here, but if you can imagine, the private blockchain is like a curated museum with real curators who are allowing people who buy tickets into the museum to look at art and films and other creative projects that have been curated, meaning provenance has been verified, certificate of authenticity. The artists really have a body of work. They're not faking it. There's no fake news. It's real art. So the public blockchain, anyone can steal anything and put it up on the blockchain. So you need a level of curation and authentication and validation and verification and all the other words that mean ascertaining the truth of what an asset is, i.e. title, for example, a deed, provenance, certificate of authenticity for art, for diamonds. So in a consensus, a lot of people here, does everyone know what consensus is with regard to blockchain? Raise your hand if you know what it is. So there's probably 2/3 of the people who don't know what the consensus is. So I'll just tell you very briefly that if you take the Ethereum smart contract and you have nodes on the blockchain that are now going to have a digital handshake, consensus measures the flow between appropriate peers to ensure blockchain transactions are kept in order and that are consistent. So if a record is entered into the blockchain and there is no consensus about its validity, for example, there could be non-validating peers, and therefore there wouldn't be a consensus. So there is a consensus mechanism for validation internal to the blockchain that makes it unique. Smart contracts, is everyone here familiar with smart contracts? Just about everyone, but for those who don't know what it is, it's similar to buying something on Netflix. It's automatically debited from your card, but you say you want to watch it on demand at, say, 10 p.m. So you can watch it at any time because it's on demand. It's already stored in a database. But can you imagine now having it forwarded to 5 of your friends at 10 p.m. so they can watch it with you? That would be a smart contract. So that's an example where it's a self-executing piece of software that does some instructions. The blockchain ecosystem in the U.S. has some brand names in the middle in the enterprise blockchain. On the left, you see Bitcoin, Hyperledger, Ethereum, and below, vertical solutions in energy, finance, supply chain, IoT, media. And there's many business models going on the blockchain. So what's very important is to understand how global it is and how diverse it is. These are all the separate business models on the blockchain. About 13% are infrastructure, 11.7% exchange, trading, and investment, 7.8% wallets, payments, and 5% wallets, and many others. The location of the blockchain startups of 36.4% in the U.S., 14.3% in the United Kingdom, 4.6% in China, 4% in Canada, and it's growing in every country. Blockchain startups. So it's the biggest source of capital formation in Africa is crowdsourcing and crowdfunding in the blockchain. These are the league tables. Most of you already know this, that this was actually a few weeks ago. So since then, Bitcoin is well over 100 billion. And Ethereum is number 2 cryptocurrency, is over 34 billion. Ripple, which is now competing soon with Swift, is going to enable bankers to wire money from bank to bank in competition with Swift. It's over $10 billion valuation now. So these are actually really functioning companies. I tried to get into a Ripple conference in Toronto, and they said, I'm sorry, you can afford the $2,800 ticket, but you're not a vice president or executive VP of a major bank. So as a result, they wouldn't let me in. So there's some of these cryptocurrency conferences are quite exclusive. Obviously, this is the early stage of a major increase in assets. So that you've seen all of these from prior slides of other people. Why do ICOs matter? Well, it's already exceeded VC money, all crowdfunding over Indiegogo and Kickstarter. So you can see that crowdfunding now, as of May, has a new opportunity through ICOs. It's true, some of the ICOs have already failed. Others will fail. Already, Tezos, which is a conflict resolution type governance platform, the 2 co-founders are actually in a conflict over control over Tezos. So that's ironic that some conflict resolution platform would start with a conflict that's irreconcilable due to a lack of consensus between the 2 founders. This is, again, another slide showing the range of business models. So what's next? Clearly, we've had a lot of ICOs. This is an old slide of 84 ICOs to date, but in fact, there's been many more, and there's about 30 ICOs proposed per day. So it's a torrent of new ICOs. Not all of them will be successful. Very few are well connected. Some are coming from Moscow. Quite innovative, brilliant people. They're not money launderers just because they come from Russian Federation. And they also want to move to Dublin and be very diligent in compliance with European Union laws on know your customer, KYC, AML, anti-money laundering statutes. Number of cryptocurrency wallets has grown in a year from over 9 million to over 17 million. You know about the SEC, that's already been discussed. I joined the Crypto Valley Association of Zug. It cost about 100 Swiss francs. This is the Swiss blockchain landscape, kind of an infographic showing all the logos, but there's different categories. One that is not on this Swiss blockchain ecosystem chart is Société Générale de Surveillance, SGS. I dealt with SGS when I was working for my family's firm when it was number 56 in the Forbes list of privately held companies before I left for Salomon Brothers, before I left for 2 hedge funds. And they're interested in working with banks and trading firms all over the world to bring certificates of origin, certificates of weight, phytosanitary certificates, and other certificates that are heart of the world trade, certificate of weight. All of these are like title and enables people to transmit money against documents, documentary letters of credit, so that the documents are transmitted on the blockchain. So I don't think this is a ridiculous bubble. I think this is a bubble that will expand until the low end bursts and the high end succeeds. So it's going to differentiate between those who are compliant and those who are not, those who are offshore in the dark web and those who are in the sunshine of compliance. There's all kinds of valuation metrics that are being discussed here. By the way, is the Israeli blockchain. I've been to Israel 3 times this year, and it's a very exciting entrepreneurial ecosystem without the blockchain. With the blockchain, with advanced developments of cryptography, which some Israelis specialize in because they have IDF intelligence backgrounds, and they have Technion degrees and Ben Gurion University of the Negev degrees. There's strong defense industry, and the Army elite technology units have come into the blockchain ecosystem. Again, this is not ridiculous. This is extraordinary that we now have universities like Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Technion, Tel Aviv, Weizmann Institute of Science as centers of excellence in this new protocol innovation. So here's, there is a bubble element to the blockchain. We'll get into a debate in a couple minutes. This is Gouda tulip bulbs between December 1st, 1634 and February 5th, 1637. You can see the price of tulip bulbs went up exponentially, logarithmically exponential, and then dropped like a rock. But guess what? Tulip bulbs still exist, and the blockchain will survive the bursting of the next bubble. Just like the internet survived the bursting of the dot-com bubble, and Google was born early in that demise of the NASDAQ bubble, and we made new highs. So people have told me Bitcoin is a bubble that's going to burst. It's going to burst. It's a fad. It's a scam. It's ridiculous, and it's going back down. And, of course, it did. See, I was right. It's crashing. And then, of course, it makes new highs, and they repeat the same refrain. Bitcoin is a bubble. It's going to burst. It's ridiculous. It's a scam. It's going back down. And then, of course, they were right. It went down. It crashed. And then it went up to make new highs. And the same cycle is going to repeat itself over and over again. So we may have the blockchain cryptocurrencies in the aggregate, right now over $195 billion in the aggregate, including Bitcoin, which is about half of the aggregate market cap, grow to $5 trillion in the next 5 years or sooner. And then it could go up 10x to $50 trillion. Why? Because sovereign central banks will be issuing fiat parallel cryptocurrencies, just like India no longer has physical cash. They adopted a digital currency. So too, the Central Bank of China will go the way of India in adopting a digital currency. They're already hiring blockchain experts. Even though they shut down the exchanges, they were just trying to get control of this bubble. But they really are taking blockchain very seriously, and so are many central banks. And so there's a lot of robo-advisors. I'm going to just wrap up by saying that the robo-advisor landscape is complicated, just like the blockchain landscape is complicated. I've run an artificial intelligence firm for over 15 years since I left Wall Street, and now I'm converging by bringing in experts in machine learning and deep learning to create algorithms to do predictive analytics on cryptocurrency data in real time and add value and differentiate us as a crypto fund. It's launching next year in Luxembourg on a over $22 billion platform. So robo-advisor landscape is already global. Most of it's in the U.S., Germany, United Kingdom, Canada. Finally, artificial intelligence is an asset category which is converging with the blockchain in the cloud, and it's converging with, of course, it's already converged with Wall Street long ago. Through, the Turing test, can a computer communicate well enough to persuade a human that it too is human? Already, Sophia was interviewed by Charlie Rose and was extraordinary in her humanity, and it demonstrated the potential of robots. This was created by a friend of mine, Ben Gurtzville, who lives in Hong Kong, who's vice president of an AI startup that creates human-like robots. The AI landscape is being monitored, and there's innovation summits. There's the AI 100, and there's all kinds of applications for AI, from ad sales, healthcare, cybersecurity, conversational bots, which will be a $250 billion business someday, business analytics, all of which is converging on the blockchain as well. So, and the AI has already impacted all of these industries. So if you look at the same industries and do a similar chart for the blockchain, we're going to have blockchain economics and microeconomics affecting all industries, all enterprise verticals. So there's nothing ridiculous about that. It's very serious. And billions of dollars are being invested in the infrastructure, not just in the ICO market. So if you talk about the infrastructure, there's a lot of serious VCs working on it. Now, not all will be revenue positive. Not all will be commercially successful. So I agree with Tom. I agree with Tom on a lot of things. He's a very smart man, and I look forward to working with you someday. So AI funding through the charts. Is that a bubble? Is that ridiculous? Just because funding is attracted to innovation? Nothing new in the United States, and this is the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you very much.